Hello, veterinary friends. Welcome to the Veterinary Life Coach Podcast. Today, I have an exciting guest for you. It's Dr. Cheryl Good. She's a small animal practitioner in Dearborn, Michigan. She graduated from Michigan State University, College of Veterinary Medicine. Go Spartans. She's the Chief Veterinary Officer at Dearborn Family Pet Care here in Dearborn, Michigan. She was the medical director for a local animal shelter run by Friends for Animals of Metro Detroit for 25 years. And Dr. Good was a member of the North American veterinary community and on the board of directors for 7 years and is one of their past presidents in 2019. She is a founding board member of the Veterinary Virtual Care Association and the chief veterinary officer of the Bridge Club. And she's also a member of the World Small Animal Veterinary Association. She's on the Animal Wellness and Welfare Committee and is a mentor for new graduates as a member of MentorVet. Did I get it all? That was a mouthful.
I think you got it all.
Welcome to the podcast, Cheryl. I'm so
Do you need a break?
Here. What's that?
I said, do you need a break now?
I know, I'm like out of breath. That's like a huge bio. You're a joiner, it looks like. I thought I was a joiner. I think you're more so than I am.
Yeah, I guess I am.
Are you one of those people that when someone asks for a volunteer, your hand just you just go up because you just
I had to learn over time to say no. That was really hard to say no, or to realize, especially I was the medical director for the animal shelter for so long, but then when I became president of the North American Vet Community Board, I realized I can't do both of those because I was going to be traveling so much for the one and being so involved that was when I went off the animal shelter board after 25 years. So that was a big deal.
Yeah, and that was probably hard to do. Those big changes are hard. I find that I get kind of like attached to things, and so it's hard to leave.
Yeah.
So I always ask everyone that's on the podcast to tell their veterinary story and basically kind of how you decided to become a veterinarian, how that all panned out, as much or as little as you want to tell.
Sure.
But what's your veterinary story?
So I think mine started very similar to a lot of veterinarians in that the minute I learned what a veterinarian was, which was I was a very young child, I decided that's what I wanted to do. So when I was, 2 or 3, I kept saying, I want a dog, I want a dog. And my parents were like, okay, when you learn to read. Well, my mother was a teacher, so I learned to read at 4. So then they went, whoops, I guess we're not ready. So they pushed me off till I was 7. We got our dog, a black lab, Spooky, and we took him to the vet, and the veterinarian was Dr. Colmery, Ben Colmery, the dentist.
Oh yeah, I know Ben Colmery. That's awesome.
And so he was our Spooky's vet and became like, I was just like, wow, I'm in awe of him and I want to be him. And then I was reading all of the All Creatures Great and Small, the James Harriet series, and then I wanted to be James Harriet, and
right, we all did,
yeah, it just went on. And unfortunately, my dog Spooky, when he was young, he was about 6 or 7, he developed an immune disease, and so he was at Dr. Colmery's a lot, and then he even was up at Michigan State a lot, and we lost him, as a younger dog, and that even fueled the fire for me even more. I really want to be able to help animals like Spooky, right? I wanted to.
You said if I was a vet, I'd have saved him. Yeah.
Well,
or at least that was what you thought.
Right?
Yeah. Or you wanted to know. Yeah. I think that's true when you're a kid,
Yeah. So I just, all my life, I feel like I was just gearing everything towards that. So, I found my parents took me, I think it was just my mom took me to, what was that? The open house at Michigan State.
Oh yeah. That was Vet-A-Visit.
Yeah. Vet-A-Visit.
That was so fun. Yeah.
That was really fun. And I, that just made me want to go there even more. And, back then when I applied to Michigan State as an undergrad, I applied to Michigan State knowing that I was going to go to vet school at some point, right? That
Right,
was in
right.
my mind.
That's
So
exactly what I did.
so
Yeah.
I only applied to Michigan State,
Mhm.
went undergrad, and then I started applying, to vet school as soon as I could, and ended up getting into vet school after I finished my biology degree. And so it just was like boom, boom, boom. And prior to getting in, you need to have experience, different kinds of experience. So
Right.
living in Ann Arbor as I did, growing up, we had veterinarians in Ann Arbor that I was able to observe with. I didn't observe with Dr. Comrie, but I was able to observe with one of the other vets in the Ann Arbor area, and then one of the large animal vets. I went on farm calls with one of the large animal vets
Yeah.
in the area as well. And then my father worked for Warner Lambert Park Davis, and he had some friends at the VA hospital. And so they actually got me in to working in their their lab animal section, if you will. So I was able to learn from, the handlers and the lab animal. I think it was called Lark or Lara. I can't remember exactly. But I was also able to stand in and watch surgeries that they were doing. And I even knew some family friends. They had were up and coming doctors, and they were learning. And so that was really incredible. That my first exposure to anesthesia and surgery was
Yeah. Yeah. You were like around the medicine early on, which a lot of, a
yeah,
lot of people didn't get that.
yeah. And I guess, I always wanted to be James Harriet because I loved all animals, and I was thinking, oh, I'll do all the animals. And then I started liking the lab animals, and, so I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I wanted to do everything, but of course,
Right.
once I got into vet school and you get even more exposure, I realized, I think I better just stick to small animal. So that's what I
Right.
ended up doing.
Yeah. I thought I wanted to be a horse vet for a while because I loved horses and I worked at the track in
Oh, wow.
Detroit, that Detroit racetrack when I was in
Yep.
high school. And I loved that. It was, the best thing was mucking stalls. I just thought that was so fun. But
Yeah.
then when I started really working around horses, and I was like, I don't want to get kicked in the face, and
Yeah.
I don't want to be
Right.
outside in Michigan in the middle of the winter. I started getting a little wimpy. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's how you
And
got small. And you did
but,
you do exotics, right?
well, the only exotics that I do, or did, I don't really do a whole lot anymore, were, pocket pets. I did some birds. One of my first patients was a snake. So with skin mites. You never forget that. I
Right,
don't want to
right.
treat this. Look it up really quick. Oh,
Yeah,
ivermectin. Okay, I can do that.
yeah.
So yeah, not a lot of exotics, but just the little pocket pets, mostly that people have: ferrets and guinea pigs and rabbits and rats. I had some great rat patients. I really
Yeah,
loved.
rats are kind of cool.
Hmm.
I wouldn't think they are, but they are. They have cool personalities.
Yeah.
So once you got through veterinary school, then did you go right to Dearborn, that clinic, or
Yeah.
did you go to, so that's been your
Yeah.
clinic
So
from
I
the time
worked
you
for
graduated?
somebody else though, and not
Right.
not the practice that I'm in right now that I own.
Okay.
But that I worked for. I thought, at first I'm like, I don't want to be in Michigan. I want to spread my wings. I want to, check out other places. So I actually interviewed in Connecticut and Illinois and just all over the place. But ended up getting a good offer for a job in Dearborn. So I ended up working in Dearborn for another practitioner, and worked there for about 7 years before I bought my practice.
Yeah. And then you owned your own, just you single owner, no partners?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Single owner.
So tell me about that, because I do have a lot of veterinarians on the podcast, and I was an owner, that. You're an
Right.
owner. I find that that's really intimidating, it seems, to younger veterinarians right now. So tell me what your opinion is on that. Like, what do you think's good about ownership? What do you think the challenges are? What kind of personality do you need? Like all those kind of things.
So I'm kind of a person that sort of wings it, I guess. And I think you may be too, but
little bit.
When I became a veterinarian, it never dawned on me that I would ever own a practice. I just wanted to practice medicine and take care of my patients and my clients, and I didn't want to own a practice. But when as I was working for someone else, unfortunately, I didn't have a great, in my opinion, my boss wasn't ideal. And thankfully, I did have a mentor, another veterinarian there. Otherwise, I may have switched jobs. But I started looking at how that business was run and thinking to myself, I can do better. I don't have any business background, but I feel like I can take care of my team better, make it a place where, people want to come to work,
Right.
and be able to, in doing that, make a success, and also maybe have a bit more time for my own family too.
Yeah.
Because then you can, I know a lot of young vets might think, well, if you're the owner, then all you're going to be doing is working, working, working. Well, that's not true,
That's how
because
I felt.
then you can set your own hours. So,
Yeah. You can close the hospital if you want.
I mean, you
That's what I
can.
liked about it. It's like, hey, if I
Yeah.
want to go on vacation and I can't find anyone to work, I can just close the doors.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. That part of it would give me anxiety, but
Oh,
you still
sure.
could do it, right? You still
Right.
could
You
do
still
it.
had
And
that option.
yeah, so I decided, I was looking to own a practice, and at the time that my boss, wanted to sell me the practice I was working at, but then it was just way too much money. So I started checking around, and I ended up, I was deciding, should I buy that, or should I do a startup and have a little storefront and create something. But then this other smaller animal hospital, just sort of, I found out through another vet that this other one was going up for sale. It hadn't even gone on the market yet, and spoke with the owner, and he was kind of backing off on his duties and the amount of time he was spending. So it was ripe for the picking, if you will, because
Right. Yeah.
it wasn't as expensive as the other one was going to be. So I was able to kind of step in. He was working as one vet, I was coming in as one vet, but it grew so quickly, so that
Yeah.
within a few years, I had two more veterinarians working with me, and then we just outgrew
Nice.
the space, and we ended up having, I bought it in 95, and by 2003 we moved into the new building that we built. So
Nice.
it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And it just it just made me happier being
Hmm.
in an environment that I was able to create, along with a lot of the other people that I kind of brought with me. So I brought some veterinary technicians, and I brought some veterinary assistants with me,
Yeah.
and some people that were there, and we were able to create a really nice culture.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah.
yeah, so I think for the new vets coming out, look, if they're looking to maybe have a little bit more money, realistically, because
Oh,
if you own
yeah.
your own
Yeah. You can
practice,
make way more money as an owner.
yep, you
I mean,
make more
it's
money.
getting better now for associates than it used to be, but there's so many things you can do as the owner, as far as, like
Right,
IRAs, and,
right.
you have profit share, there's profit, and yeah.
But you're able to create a something great,
Right.
and have more time, because for yourself, because when I became a vet, I got married like the next year. So I started working for somebody, got
Yeah.
married the next year, got pregnant the next year. And so then I was pregnant for 5 years. So it's
Yeah.
like, it was hard to kind of finagle that, working for somebody else.
Sure.
But, once I was able to, become the owner and set my own hours, then I could say, okay, and thank God for my husband, because he was able to pitch in with all the kids. But I was
Right.
able to say, okay, on this day, I'm going to take off a couple hours because I want to go help out at this school, or I want to go to this event. Or so you really, I made it a point all the way through my kids' younger years and even into college, that I was just present and always there, but always, as you know, with all the things I did even outside of practicing, always found time for that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And I
And so
didn't
your
need a
life was really
27-hour day.
full. It's very full, your life.
Yeah.
And so many things you've gotten to do. Well, that just kind of like springboarded my brain into a question about because May is Mental Health Awareness Month.
Right.
And so I've been trying to talk a little bit about that. And this podcast should come out in May. And so the question then is what do you think about the problems that we're having with our mental health right now in vet med? Can some of those be solved in this ownership space? Or, how did you manage that the mom duties, the mom guilt with the ownership piece? Like you and I have similar stories around that, but what would your advice be, or how can you explain to people, how you can coordinate all that and still maintain a healthy mental state, and not
Right.
get sucked into that work too much and be present for your kids, like you said, and be in the school stuff. And
So for me, and I kind of have to take you back a little bit to
Mhm.
my college years,
Yeah.
my vet school years, because I did have during my college years, my pre-vet years, and then into vet school, I did have a lot of stressors that, and thankfully, stressors that I needed help with. I needed mental help with. Like
Right.
I needed someone to talk to,
Hmm.
because there was just too much.
Right.
A long-term, a boyfriend that I had had for 5 years, there was a breakup.
Right.
And just prior to that, his mom and dad passed and his grandparents passed. So I was
Wow.
dealing with that sadness. And then my grandfather passed, who was like, I was super, super close with him. Thought I was his favorite, but it was my mom's dad. So just so much stress
Right.
that started, I was a young kid in vet school, and like I'm starting to act out. What am I doing? Like staying
Yeah.
out too late or not studying enough. My grades started suffering, and thankfully my parents, they recognized that things were going on, and they talked to me, but they said, you need to get help. You need to talk to somebody, a professional, right? And
Right.
that's
Right.
as somebody who's going to be a veterinarian and someone who's like this A personality, that no, I don't need help. I can do it all myself,
Right.
right?
That's what you think. Yeah. And
That's
I
what you
think that's
think,
part
but
of our problem.
yeah, but I said, okay. I listened to them, and I said,
Good.
I'm going to find somebody. So I did. So for a number of years, I had a standing appointment and spoke with a therapist. And I think that really helped.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, you know, you also have to understand that once you can never, um, you can't do anything in a silo. You always have to have, whether it's, a mental health specialist, or, some good friends that you're talking to, or your partner, or your parents, um your kids when they become adults. I mean, you have to
Yeah.
you
The
have
kids
to
will tell
know
you
that.
what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to know that it's okay to ask for help, and
Hmm.
it's okay to be vulnerable. I so I just would put that out there. You really need to give yourself a break, and
Hmm.
know that you can be a strong woman or a strong man and still ask for help.
Right.
And that
And still
that
struggle.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember one day, and this probably happens to everybody, but I'm not one that usually breaks down. I'm usually like very stoic. And I remember one day in the old building, I had owned the practice probably just for a couple of years. And it was one of those days where, you know, I had been seeing tough case after tough case. And then all of a sudden I had a bunch of I had a really tough euthanasia that I did, a long-term, patient of mine. And I remember walking into the surgery room just before surgeries were about to start. And I literally just like fell to the floor and started sobbing.
Mm.
And my team came in, and they were aghast. They were like, "Oh my God." They'd never seen anything like,
Right.
I'd
They were
never
freaked
shown
out.
emotion like that.
Yeah.
And I think and then I let it out, and then I was done and I was fine. But I think doing that, being able to release that is so important, and not be afraid to do it in front of people, you know what I mean?
Right, right.
You
Well,
know,
and
because
I would guess on some level that bonded them to you more because they
yeah,
saw the humanity, you
yeah,
know. Sometimes when you're the boss or the doctor, you know, everybody puts you on this kind of, you know, perfection pedestal. It's bad enough that we do it to ourselves, but
right,
then other people do it as well. Oh, you're a vet, you must have it all together, you know. And
yeah,
just showing them that, you know, we have bad days too, and you know, we need to cry, and you
yeah.
know, grief is real, and that's all okay. Yeah, so I bet that that was probably a good thing for your team.
Yeah, it probably was.
Yeah,
It probably was.
as well as you, and just getting it out and being okay with that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's and as an owner, you know, just being able to give the team, you know, some kind of get together outside of work.
Right.
I remember taking my team to a spa one time, you know, just to give them a little break.
Yeah.
Um, just bringing in food, that's always good.
We all like food.
We all like food. Um, and even just buying little trinkets, you know, to let them know how much they mean to you. You know,
Yeah.
those kinds of things go a long way for mental health. And now there's, you know, there's a lot more that we can do as owners, right? Where we can bring in specialists, or they have hotlines they can call if there's issues, just so that the team knows that there's something out there
Yeah, that's getting more and
for
more
them.
common. You know, a
Mhm.
lot of the corporations are providing that. A lot of the even practices that don't belong to a corporation. I think the owners are just becoming more aware,
Yeah,
having people in to talk about, you know, communication, and, you know, just giving veterinarians the tools to handle all the things that we have to handle, I think is part of it. And then, like you said, the fun stuff.
yeah.
That was the
And
best
learning
part
to take
about
a
being an owner.
yeah, yeah, and learning to take a breath, right? If
Yes.
you're, you know, if you start feeling like, you know, all this stuff is going on, and, you know, you might want to like just let it out.
Yeah.
But you got to be careful about how things sound in front of people, right?
Right.
How you're gonna say it. And so just taking a breath, or walking and closing the door and just taking a few breaths, and then coming back out and, you
Hide in
know,
the bathroom.
going on with
That
yeah,
was my trick. And when I
hide
was
in the
the
bathroom.
owner, I was like,
Right.
the only place nobody's gonna talk to me is in the bathroom. Because even when you have your office door closed, they still just
Yeah, they're
walk
knocking
in,
on
or
it.
they
Yeah.
knock. And in the bathroom, you were usually good for at least 5 or 10 minutes, but sometimes they'd slip messages under the door. I had that happen a few times, but
That's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah. I mean, you do have to have that. You have to have some tools,
Yeah.
you know, some breathing exercises or something like that. So, okay, I love all that. So tell me about all these organizations. Which one do you want to start with? I want to pick your brain about all this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
I've got the Bridge Club first because I kind of wanted to hear about that, but you tell me.
Yeah, so I'm not really great at giving like a canned this is what it is, but
Okay.
um
Well, just tell me
so
about it. How'd you get involved?
yes,
Let's start with the Bridge Club. Tell
yeah,
me
so
about
the
it. How'd you get involved? What do you do with them? That kind of thing.
yeah, so I got involved with them. I actually learned about them at the first veterinary innovation summit that I went to in Texas, and
Okay.
they were hosting kind of like a happy hour get together. So I went and met a few people, and said, oh, you know, this is a fun group, and they're all about networking and communication, and getting everyone involved in the veterinary profession together, not just veterinarians and veterinary technicians, but industry people and that kind of thing. Anybody that's, you know, has their hand in the veterinary world, um, networking, making connections. That's what the Bridge
It's
Club
their
is all
mission.
about. Hmm.
Yeah.
And so, and we all do this by hosting virtual um, conversations. And
Okay.
it's, you know, whether we bring in say a specialist to talk about, neurology or something that's, going on in the nutrition world, or we have a really cool conversation coming up about legislative updates with telemedicine and the VCPR. So it's not a seminar, it's not a symposium, you don't get up there and put up slides. It's someone from the Bridge Club, either our CEO, Catherine, or myself, or Shannon, we have a veterinary technician who's the head of our education. So one of us or a couple of us would be like the interviewers. So we have a show, and we interview and we ask questions, and then we get audience participation too. Okay. So sometimes I'll be in the chat, or Shannon will be in the chat, and we'll bring some of the questions forward. We don't unmute everybody, and we do it over Zoom.
Right.
But it's very interactive, which is very cool.
Yeah.
So the way I became the chief veterinary officer is during COVID, just like with, I think, a lot of associations, you started doing a lot of Zoom. Well, the Bridge Club started hosting Friday evening happy hours. Nice. So I started going to the virtual happy hours, and it was just a way of checking in, how are you doing?
How's everyone doing in their practices? Yeah.
Yeah. So that was very cool. And Catherine and I hit it off, and she was, at the time she wanted to do more things, and just wanted to make sure that she had a veterinarian involved that would make sure like the medicine was correct, and everything regarding veterinary medicine was on the up and up. So she asked me if I would be interested, and I thought, yes, I raised my hand.
Yeah. Yes. So the mission is just to kind of get everyone together and give them kind of a place to network.
But we're doing a lot more now. It's probably easier for everybody to just go onto thebridgeclub.com and then they'll
check it out.
They can check it out. But
I looked at the website. I mean, it looks really interesting. I haven't joined or tried it yet, but it sounds like something that might be fun to do.
Yeah, and we have Bridge Club Pets, which is really cool. It's client facing, pet parent facing, if you will. And that's just so much fun, because the pet parents get on to the conversations and show us the pets and get some really great questions from them when we bring on, a nutritionist, or we have like pet toy gadget, conversations. We've had some Halloween and Christmas gadget conversations. We had a really good conversations about end of life euthanasia.
Yeah. So that sounds really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
So transitioning off of that, because you were talking about Zoom and telemedicine, let's go into that, because you're into that. That's one of your jobs, right? You're doing the telemedicine. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I do telemedicine within my practice. We have a platform that we use, and I started doing some, well, of course we all do telemedicine, right? When we get on the phone and we talk to our clients, that's a form of telemedicine.
Right. And we never thought that, right? Until COVID. Right. And then we're like, wait, we could do this over the phone. Let's figure this out.
Yeah, let's do it over, a computer. Let's get paid for it, because it's our expertise, right? So, and we can reach more people. That's the whole thing that I'm excited about. Let's reach more people. Access to care is
access to care. Yeah, that's a big thing right now. Yeah.
And telemedicine and telehealth is a way that you can, bring veterinary medicine to more people, reach more people. And so I was doing it prior to COVID, and then COVID hit, and it just went crazy. The amount of telemedicine that I was doing, it slowed down a little bit for me anyways, lately, but I'll still have some days where I'll do, I'll be seeing my regular appointments, and then all of a sudden I'll have like 3 to 5 telemedicine consults on top of that. Because if someone calls and says, I have this weird bump and I just need the doctor to look at it, and they're like, okay, well, let's do a telemedicine appointment, and you can take some pictures and do a video, and then we talk, text back and forth. So
Right.
it's really great. The frustrating thing for me, and the reason why I love being on the VVCA board, that's the
Yeah.
Veterinary Virtual
VCs.
Care Association board,
Yep. That's what
is
I was trying
because
to come up with. Yeah.
we're really working hard to, create, I guess, a safe space, if you will, with all this information of how telemedicine works and how you can do it in your practice and make it so that it's not so scary. Because I think a lot of veterinarians still go, oh gosh, I don't think I can do that. It's too much, or it's going to take up too much time.
Yeah.
I think if you really look at it, it really doesn't. And there's so many ways you can do it. You don't have to have even a platform that you pay for. You can use FaceTime, you can use Zoom, you can, you could do so
Yeah.
many different things with it. But right now, and that's one of the talks that the Bridge Club's going to have June 8th, about telemedicine and VCPR and legislative updates. The frustrating thing is that not all states allow you to establish a VCPR over telemedicine.
Over telemedicine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's
And
really controversial. It's very
it's very,
controversial.
yeah, it's very controversial. I personally feel that you should trust your veterinarian to know what you can and can't do,
Yeah. What
what
they
you
feel
can and,
comfortable with.
yeah, so obviously you can't, right now I can't listen to a heart or lungs,
Right.
over telemedicine. I can't palpate an abdomen over telemedicine. But how many times I recall in the past, or other people, if you have an animal that is showing symptoms of, say, a urinary tract infection, how many times when you're palpating an abdomen just from palpating, can you diagnose a stone, or can
Yeah.
you diagnose a
Rarely.
UTI or something
Yeah.
else? You have to get a urinalysis, you have to get an x-ray, which
Mhm.
would be something that if you start off doing a telemedicine appointment, you talk back and forth with the owner, you get some video, maybe they or a picture, they show you what the urine looks like where we leaked. Oh, there's a little
Mhm.
blood. Yeah, that concerns
Right.
me.
Yeah.
So then you say, I am worried about this. Let's schedule an appointment to come in and get an x-ray and a urinalysis,
Right.
or drop
Right.
off, you know what I mean, or drop off a urine sample or something. So,
Sure.
but at least you have that point of contact, right? The
Mhm.
first point of contact, where, because of how busy everyone is, they may have had to wait, for that, like a week or so, while the animal, poor thing,
Right.
is suffering, or they have a
Yeah.
horrible ear infection, and this animal's been treated over and over for ear infections, let's say. And, the owners can take a swab and show it to you, this is what it looks like, and here's what the ear's looking like. And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's safe. Let's send you home with this ear medicine, and then follow up and come into the hospital, and let's check the baby in a week and see how we're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Just to be able to give them some
Get them
support.
started, or give them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've even had people bring the swabs in to us if they couldn't bring the dog in. Like
Right.
during COVID, we had to get really creative, right? My
Yeah.
hospital went from 4 doctors. And then during COVID, we had to split into teams of 2, that whole beginning thing. And then I had a couple doctors leave. So and then it was crazy, right?
Right.
So I had to do that a lot. I had to do telemedicine and be like, okay, I can't get you in for 2 weeks, but you can't let a ear infection sit there and brew for 2 weeks. So can you just bring me some swab? Like, I know your dog, bring me some swabs.
Yeah.
I can show you how to do it. And then give them the meds. Or I even had, and this was, I don't know how this would go over with the legal teams that are arguing about all this, but we had times when I couldn't be at the hospital and we had no doctor, but I had lots of techs that needed to work. So we actually did telemedicine with them at the hospital and me virtual. And the
Right.
techs would bring the pet in, and they would get me on FaceTime and say, okay, here's what's going on. Here's how much he weighs. Here's his temp. Here's what his ears look like. And I'd say, well, can you swab those ears, or can you clean those ears, or can you,
Mhm.
get some urine or get some blood? And then they'd be like, yep, we'll call you back with the results. And like we did telemedicine with me not even there.
Yeah, and
And
there's a lot of vets who have been doing that, and I think that's
yeah, and it
fantastic.
kind of worked really,
Yeah.
really well. I mean, we told the clients, we're like, look, there's no
Mhm.
doctor in the building. So if something really bad happens, something bad could happen and you'd end up at the emergency clinic. But we were able to see a lot of pets that way because my techs
Yeah,
are super capable and they can pretty much do anything. And it was, the only thing I couldn't do is listen to the heart, like you said. I couldn't
right.
palpate them, but I could always say, well, I don't like the way this looks, so set them up an appointment for when I'm there, so I can see them, or that one needs
Yeah.
to go to the specialist, so.
But your veterinary technicians, if they're as good as mine, they can detect murmurs, right?
Oh yeah, my techs can listen to
And
hearts
and
for
then
sure.
they could say, I'm hearing a murmur, and then you could say, well, let's get an X-ray of that chest, and then then you could see
Sure.
the X-ray and
Yeah. Yeah.
go from
Yeah.
there.
I even had them taking x-rays on limping dogs, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of things that you can do without actually putting your hands on the patient. And I think, to me, I get both sides of it. I get the side that doesn't want us to do telemedicine. I understand that there's danger, that something really bad could happen. And, we've done tech appointments when I'm actually in the building and something bad happens, the pet collapses, or when they're trying to draw blood or whatever. And then, yeah, catastrophes can happen. But so I understand that. But when I go into human medicine, the doctor very rarely puts a hand on you.
Right.
Like, they talk to you and then they get all the tests, and they have the nurses and everyone doing everything. So I don't know, there's something interesting about it. How do you feel about the controversy? Like, do you feel um like there's a lot of infighting in the veterinary community about this, or do you think there's a small opposition to telemedicine?
I think I think there's a smaller opposition that's very loud. So,
Okay, so the people
you
that are
know,
against it are very heavily against it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then I think, there's also a good amount who are for it but aren't as loud.
Okay.
There's the
Like,
few
they're
of us
afraid to
that are,
speak up
yeah, they just need
because
to
they don't
speak
want to
up.
hear from those loudmouths.
Yeah. But I just think there needs to be more conversation. I feel like we all want the same thing, right?
Yeah.
So we just need to figure it out and have guardrails, like,
Yeah, like some
so
kind
that
of
there,
rules.
yeah, some kind of
Yeah.
rules
To
around it.
protect our
And
license and protect the pets, and
mhm,
yeah.
yep, and there has not been one, like, what is it called, where they try to get your license or a
Or
charge
like a board
against.
complaint.
Yeah, there has not been
Board
one board
complaint.
complaint um about telemedicine.
Yeah. Well, and they're doing it in human medicine. I did it when I was in Florida. My doctor's here in Michigan, and I was having a problem, and I tried to email her, and she's like, well, let's do a visit. Let's do a virtual visit.
Yeah,
It
I've
was
done that
great.
too. I had an eye issue, and I took a
You're
picture
like,
of my
here's
own eye,
my I can check all the tests. I can diet.
and I can't, and we're doctors, right? So we're
Right.
we're trying to diagnose ourselves,
Of
and
course.
and I'm like, I think this is what it is, but I just need, this a human doctor to tell me I'm right, or no, I'm totally wrong.
Or you're way off. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're
I
right.
love that. Yeah. So is that what the the VVCA is trying to do, is to try to get the guidelines, or what is their mission?
So the VVCA, we do so many things. We have an education committee where we, try to educate. We have all these things out there about, and of course, I'm again really bad at explaining things,
That's
but
okay. I'll just keep asking questions. I'm good at asking
yeah,
questions.
but so the education committee, we try to set up, you know, what telemedicine is, how you can do it, the different platforms. We have, like, we're going to create an ethics committee. That's kind of a new one.
Mhm.
Ethics surrounding telemedicine and telehealth. We had a couple of symposiums that we did over the last couple of years. We didn't do it this past year, but we've only been in existence of like 3 years, so we're
Yeah.
very new.
Yeah, it's a
But I think
COVID
it's
thing.
because, yeah,
Mhm.
um, but we're also now working harder towards helping, um, establish, I mean, we're really trying to push VCPRs
Mhm.
being established over telemedicine. And so we're really working hard on that right now. And just with guardrails, right? So we're
Right.
trying to come up with that as well.
Yeah.
And we have this really cool map that you can go on the VVCA website, and you can click on a state and it'll tell you, you know, what the VCPR rules are, you know, what's going on there, if it's allowed or not allowed, and just so everybody knows for each state they are licensed in, what is happening,
What's
it,
happening in that
we keep that up
state?
to date. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
with the
that's one of the
license.
things that we do. We do a lot, and we're actually going to be global,
Really?
meaning that um, we're going to be having members, board members from Canada, board members from Europe, and we're trying to just be all encompassing, because I think it's telemedicine is important all over, and it,
Yeah.
again, it's access to care. So
Yeah. Is there a way to springboard off of what the human medicine has done? Because do they have, like, how do they do that?
yeah, so that we are using
Their
a lot of
model?
what they've done as a model.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And Canada, it's legal in Canada to establish VCPRs via telemedicine, so they're helping as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Humans are a little easier, I think, because they can communicate better than the pets can. And sometimes the clients,
But babies can't,
but
right?
babies can't, right?
Babies
Exactly. It's
can't, and you have to rely on the parents.
right. Yeah. I always
So
thought that if I wasn't a vet, I'd probably be a pediatrician because it's so similar.
yeah. So I
'Cause-
mean, a baby who's having an issue, you can still do telemedicine with their parent
Right.
showing the baby,
Yeah.
or what's
Yeah.
happening. So I
Yeah.
think that's very similar
It
to
is.
the
Yeah,
vet
you're
med,
right.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the boards, like the NAVC board and all that. What appeals to you about, I mean, I know these other things are board work too, but what appeals to
Right.
you about that kind of board work, being on a veterinary medical board? Um, like what's good about that? I know what I think about it because I think it's great, but what do you think? Because I want veterinarians to see how diverse your life can be as a vet. And I
Right.
think this is part of that, some of the things that
So
you're,
the very first board that I joined was the animal shelter board. I kind of was one of the founding mothers, if you will, of the group that started to help um, take care of the animal shelter in Dearborn. And prior to us kind of coming on board and raising money and trying to help the animals there, it was really just um, a police officer, or somebody there to take care of the animals and to go out on calls and pick up the strays. I mean, they
right.
didn't have anyone
No
with a
medical care.
no medical
Yeah.
care, no
Yeah.
medical background. They had these two huge, like, fenced in areas separated by just a fence. They put boy cats here, girl cats here, one litter box. They would sometimes have 10 to 30 cats on each side.
Oh, wow.
And did they always have the boys separated from the girls? No.
Of course not. They
And
didn't know.
and they were separated by chain link. So yes, things things could happen.
You have a lot of
Um,
kittens.
and they didn't have they just, the way that they euthanized was not super humane either.
Yeah.
And so one of the first things when I started getting involved, and one of my clients got me involved with the shelter, she took me over there and showed me what was going on. And I was a new grad. I had only
Really.
been maybe a year or two.
Wow.
And I went over there and went, "Whew." So I just decided once a week on my day off, I would go and
Work-life balance for you.
yeah, I would euthanize the animals because I felt like they weren't doing it right.
Right.
So that's how I sort of got
How it
started with it.
started.
And
Yeah.
then we created it was Friends for the Dearborn Animal Shelter was what it was called first.
Right.
Now it's Friends for Animals of Metro Detroit because they're a lot bigger. But we got someone who would come on and she was a vet tech, and she became the director, and then we developed a board, and then I became medical director. So I was helping to write policy and those kinds of things. And I didn't need to have a special background to
Right.
write medical policy. I
Right.
was a veterinarian, and so I
Yeah.
knew what was appropriate.
Right. And what made
and
sense.
yeah, what made sense. And then if I really hadn't been involved with shelter medicine, and now shelter medicine is huge, right?
It's a big
It's a
thing.
big thing
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
But way back then, it sort of was in its infancy. So
Yeah.
I wasn't a member of a group or an association. I just sort of was winging it.
Right. Right. Figuring it
And
out
it
as you
worked.
go.
And then I learned more, and then, it got a little bit more involved. But, being on that board, I liked it. I liked the people, and I liked the work, because I felt like we were making a difference in those animals' lives, going from the big cages to like individual stainless steel cages, and just,
Keeping them separate.
doing
Yeah.
little things. Yeah, separating
Right.
those cats.
Yeah.
But, then for the NAVC, the North American Vet Community Board, my friend Dr. Melinda Merck, and Melinda too, she had been on the board, and she had always talked very highly of it, and what a great time she was having, and how wonderful works they were doing for the profession. And I thought, oh, that sounds great. But I was super busy at the time doing
Right.
other
Yeah. You
things.
had enough other things going.
Yeah. And the first time she asked me if I would be interested, I'm like, oh, no, I don't have time. I didn't raise my hand.
Yeah.
But then she asked me again a few years later, and it was just like at a perfect time in my life. Kids were graduating college, and I, was a little more relaxed in what I was doing at work. So I'm like, sounds interesting. So she didn't give up on me.
Yeah.
and
She got
and
you
that
into it.
that board was just so incredible. It became my family. And
Yeah.
even to this day, all of the people who I interacted with, all of the other board members and past presidents, I've just stayed super close with, and also the the staff, the CEO, and a lot of the staff, the team,
Yeah.
for NABC, I've just stayed super close with. So and they're such a well-functioning board. There's dysfunctional boards out there. I've heard horror stories about
Right.
different.
Right.
This board has always been well, at least since I've been on it. I heard some horror stories from before. But since I've been on it, and even going forward to now, it's just an amazing board, and they get so much done, and they really have helped the profession, I feel like, move forward in so many different ways.
Yeah. And personally, I think when you're in a group like that, a bigger group of veterinarians, it's so good for you personally. Like there's so many veterinarians that I wouldn't know today had I not put myself in my local community VMA,
Right.
my state VMA, the NAVC's national, international. And
Right.
so there's just so many people you meet just by putting yourself out there. And I really encourage veterinarians when they get into this profession to try to meet other veterinarians, because we all understand what it's like to live this life. And we all understand what the stressors are, and we understand, how it can get very upsetting, and how you can end up on the floor, crying some days. We have all had those days. And so I think if the more people that you can get yourself around that have those similar experiences, the more healthy your career can be. And so, if being on a board is not your bag, even joining the associations and just being a part of, the CE events, or the VMX event is huge. But
and then, the most recent thing I've been doing is I've been involved with Mentor Vet as
tell
a
me about that.
mentor. As a mentor to new grads. So, the new so with Mentor Vet, and Mentor Vet has now combined, and I can't remember the name of their new thing they're doing with the AVMA, but the AVMA has, I think, is helping to underwrite some of the cost of new grads. So new grads can sign up for this program where they learn to handle, day to day and life and how to handle certain situations. And as a mentor, they're able to, they don't have to have a mentor, but if they would like to have a mentor, that's where like myself and there's so many other mentors out there come into it. And then, they can meet with us and ask us questions, and we can help them personally through any situations that they may have, just so they know there's somebody there. I know for me as a young vet, having that other veterinarian in the practice that was a mentor for me, he helped me through so much, where I may have given up because I feel like what the other, what the boss wanted was appropriate, but he was able to kind of help me through those things. So you really, a mentor is just so invaluable, and it's a way to give back, right? And that's what I've always done, either giving back to my community, giving back to, the animals, but giving back to the profession.
Yeah. And
Because
that's so fulfilling.
I'm so grateful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very fulfilling. I think sometimes people, at least I hear it with a lot of the people that I coach, is they just feel so overwhelmed by their job and so overwhelmed by all of the things that brings, that they don't think they have the capacity to reach out for help or reach out to work on themselves, or, even create some boundaries. And I really think that if you can get those relationships going, whether it be a mentor or a coach, or, just a group of other veterinarians that you meet with once a month. I had one of those when I was an owner. I met with a bunch of hospital owners every month. That those relationships where you can talk about what's happening and get that support is really what keeps your mental health. It keeps you healthy mentally, because you're not in that I'm feeling alone and overwhelmed and I can't handle it. Because a lot of what anxiety is caused by is just those thoughts that I can't handle what's happening right now. And if you can get someone else that says, yeah, you can handle that because I did it once, or, like I got fired from my first job. So if anybody's really struggling with their job, I'm like, well, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can get fired. And when I got fired, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. And not at the time, like at the time it was horrible, but it ended up being really good for me. So I think if you can just like reach out to somebody and get those similar experiences, it can help you a lot with that mental health piece of vet med. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me one thing that I didn't ask you, or that you think we should talk about before we wrap this up. Is there something that you were like, oh, I really think we should say this? And we can do this again if you like it, but just before we end this podcast, something that I didn't ask or that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about?
Trying to think.
Okay, I put people on the spot when I say that.
Yeah.
Like, do you have mom advice? Because you're a mom and a grandmom now, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you have mom advice for vets? Like, how do you be a good mom and be a hospital owner and a good vet? Maybe that's a good question to ask you.
So I think for me, it was just involving my kids in what I was doing.
Okay, yeah. Bringing them to work with you and
yeah.
Yeah, my kids spent a lot of time
I have a really funny story. I have a funny story when I brought my boys. So I have my daughter's the oldest, and then I have two boys. And I think the boys were like, maybe, I don't know, they probably remember better than me, but they were young. They were under 10 for sure. Yeah. They were like a year and a half apart. They came in one day and hung out for a little bit, and they watched me remove a big fatty lump, big lipoma.
Oh yeah, those are fun.
So they were watching and they were going, ew, they gowned up and
yeah, the whole thing.
And all they wanted to do, they were like, ew, gross, blah, 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 blah. But all they wanted to do when it was all over was play with the fatty lump. Touch it, like squish it.
A boy thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that was funny. But and then my daughter, she, as a young girl, she looked to me, right? Here's her mom being a veterinarian and an owner. And
Yeah.
she said, I want to do that. And I want to be a vet like mom. But I was so proud of her because she finally realized that vet med wasn't for her. And she realized it, I think, after going to 8th grade vet camp at MSU. She's like, this is really fun, but I don't think I want to do this,
Yeah,
surgery
but
and
it's
this kind of thing. But still, I feel so proud of her because then she decided she wanted to be a special ed teacher. And that's
oh
something
wow. Yeah.
that really takes so much strength, right?
Yeah. And
As a
empathy and compassion and all that.
yeah, yeah. So
Very cool.
I still feel like what I do and what I did and what she saw growing up, I think helped her,
Yeah.
reach that and come to that conclusion. And she's an amazing teacher. I'm
I
just so
think
proud of
that's a
her.
really good lesson for veterinarians that are moms out there, especially with young kids or younger kids, because they have a lot of that mom guilt, right? Like, oh, I'm working and that's not right. I should be home with my kids. Like that's the story that,
Yeah,
that makes us feel guilt. And I have asked veterinary moms, it's like, what good is it doing for your kids to see their mom doing this?
yeah,
And I don't think we ever think about that. Like my kids saw me being a business owner and, firing people and hiring people and, having those tough days and bringing them to work on the weekends because I had to do paperwork and,
right.
having them help me pick up, plant flowers at the hospital or whatever. But just that example that you're setting for them makes them stronger. And it sounds
Yeah,
like that's what happened with your daughter.
yeah.
Like
And
she
just
saw my mom strong, I'm going to be strong.
right. And just also, involving them in everything that you do, like you said. And, they would come, I'd have a couple of open houses. They would come to the open houses and I'd put them to work and,
Right.
get them
Yeah.
involved. And, so they felt a part of it. And when they were really young, it was hard,
It's
because
very hard. Yeah.
I, I was a nursing mom and I would, have to go off and
Pumping
pump,
at work. I
so
know that's that. Yeah.
and did you feel, oh gosh, I can't be with the kids all the time. But when you can be with them, then it's that much more special and you just make the time, and
Yeah.
that's just how life was.
And you value it more, I think, on some
Yeah,
level. Yeah. You're
yeah.
like, it's more valuable. Yeah. I love
And
that.
then again, thank goodness for my husband because he was there
Yeah.
helping us.
Yeah. You have to have a good partner, I think, a lot of ways if you're going to do like we did. But
And if you don't, at least have other people that can help you,
yeah,
right?
like
So
a
I know
support
there's a lot of
system.
single parents out there and they do a really good job, but I
Yeah.
think they have the support of friends and family, right?
Right.
Even if
Yeah.
they don't have a partner,
Right.
it's definitely doable and they can be great parents just like we were
Great
great.
parents and great veterinarians at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't have to be perfect. Oh, that's so cool. All right. So we're getting kind of long, so let's wrap it up a little bit. Do you have like one piece of advice you want to give? I mean, I think that was great what we just said. Anything else you want to
No,
offer?
just maybe just that, I feel to this day, I'm just so happy that this was my choice to become a veterinarian. I
Yeah, it's
wanted
the
to do it since
best.
I was little, and
Hmm.
and if I had to do it all over again, I would do the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And now I'm getting close to retirement, and every animal I see, that piece of it, it just brings me so much joy to be able to help them or help, one of my clients. I had a young man who had to euthanize his old baby and he was really struggling with it.
Yeah.
And for me to be able to help him through that, and then at the end when he should just be a mess and him saying thank you,
Right.
that this is something I was meant to do.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good. And I
Yeah. It's
would
such a
never, I
gift.
would never go back and do anything else,
Yeah.
no matter how hard it is sometimes or how
Sure.
much you struggle.
Right.
Um, and it's such a worthwhile thing. And I hope more and more people will see that and become veterinarians.
Yeah. It's so rewarding. I mean, that's exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing. Like, I want people to love vet med. It's so
Yeah.
cool. It's just
agree.
the greatest profession that you could ever participate in, even though it's hard, even though there's,
Yep.
you know, there's all the hard stuff, but there's so much good stuff, like the clients and the pets, and
Yeah.
you know, it's just so rewarding. So I'm glad you said that, because it's just exactly the same way I feel. It's
Yeah.
so amazing. I mean,
And
and
I may
people
not
like
be
us.
doing, yeah, I was gonna say, sorry to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I may not be doing the day-to-day going into my job day to day when I retire, but I'm not gonna be out of vet med. I'm still gonna be doing stuff.
Exactly, exactly. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm still working in vet med and now doing this out of vet med, because I just want to stay with that community. And when you were talking about like feeling so privileged that you're doing this, and this was your dream. When you were a kid, your dream was this. And, you know, I try to remind people of that. Like, this was your dream, and now you have it. And
Yeah.
now you can create more dreams within this, you know, it's very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you being here so much. If somebody wants to reach out and find you, where can they reach you, or I mean, there's a lot of places that they can find you, I think.
Yeah. They can find me on LinkedIn,
Okay.
just look for Cheryl Good. They can also, if they wanted to send me an email, right now I would say do cgood@vetcore.com.
At VetCore.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
cgood@vetcore.com. They can reach
Okay.
me if they wanted to email me, but
I'll put it.
LinkedIn has all the things. I'm
Yeah,
always,
LinkedIn, you can just search
yeah,
on anybody and you're easy to find
yeah.
there, because you have all these little initials after your name, because you're on all these boards. Well, I really appreciate you doing this. I
Yeah, it was
appreciate your
really
time. I
fun.
know you worked all day and it's evening now. You can see it's getting dark. So I'm
Yeah.
really happy that you recorded this. And if anybody, you know, wants to get a hold of Cheryl and you can't find her on LinkedIn, email me and I'll get you in touch.
Yeah, no worries. I'll be happy to help anybody.
Yeah, of course. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, you take care. It was
Yeah, have
great.
a beautiful week, everyone. Bye. Bye, Cheryl.